everybody. Welcome to WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And today we are going to do a little bit of a dive again into the television world of Disney.
Yes.
I believe it was a few weeks ago. We had almost a month longer.
It's been a while.
But we had talked about the Disneyland show.
Yeah.
But as the entire world knows, it didn't stop once Disneyland opened.
Right. We're going to stop beating that dead horse until it's spitting out money.
I mean, if there's one thing Walt knows how to do, it's keep an idea going just to make money and make money and make money. I'm not blaming him.
If I could, I would do that.
But at this time, Disneyland was doing so well that he kind of got in a little bit of a fight with the ABC execs and decided to have a refresh, start a new approach, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it was like in the 1960s, or like by 1960, the relationship had soured with ABC. And do you want to talk about the old bit? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know
how
a lot
familiar.
about. I'm not familiar with the falling out between ABC and Disney. I know more about where they went after that.
Okay, well, fine then. So Disney wanted back their shares that they had sold to ABC as an investment, and Disneyland was doing so well.
Yes.
And Disney wanted to keep all the money.
Yes.
As we are familiar with, he had in the past, through Oswald the Rabbit and other learnings, said that he was never going to owe anybody or have anybody own him anymore. And that's how he was feeling with ABC.
Yep.
So he tried to buy back the stocks and the shares that ABC had, and they did not want to give that up. Disneyland was a moneymaker, not just for the show, but for the theme park, and they loved their investment. They kept wanting to have that money come in.
Right.
And so Disney decided to pull the TV relationship with ABC because they refused to relinquish the stocks back to
very petty.
Well, and at that same time, there was a new technology that was coming out for, television shows that Disney really wanted to take advantage of. We've talked about this a little bit in past shows where Disney had actually been making programming, television, movies, documentaries in color, even before color television existed.
Right.
And so he went and approached the only network TV show carrier, whatever
network.
I'm getting into the flow, guys. Here,
you got it.
But that actually was offering programming in color, which was NBC at the time,
right?
And so they struck up a deal and started up the wonderful world of color.
And it's interesting because I'm just going to go off on a weird tangent. This is not even on the notes. I'm sorry. This is what we do to each other all the time.
I have this note right here.
It's true. That's true. It's connected.
Yeah.
So with NBC, their parent company was RCA Victor, so Radio Corporation of America. They were actually owned by GE, and GE bought RCA from British Marconi Corporation. So they are the original wireless company, and they became in this era, they were the massive pioneers. They were I'm trying to think the best example. They were kind of like the Apple or Google of their day. Okay. They were the ones that were on the forefront of all modern technology.
I mean, I'm very familiar with RCA as a company as far as television programming goes, televisions themselves, radios, all of that.
And the thing that was kind of funny is I didn't think about it this way, but RCA was the big tech company. Even though you associate them with NBC and content stuff, they were the main. They were the company that invented a lot of that stuff. They invented the NTSC video standard, basically. That's not exactly true, but basically that's what happened.
Yeah, so. And I mean, this partnership worked out so well because, as we already know, Walt wanted to keep moving forward and keep advancing the technology of media, whether it be through adding special movement, through sound, through color, through actual theater presentations.
Yeah.
And this was just the next logical step that he already been working towards. So it was a logical connection. And they were able to take a lot of the content that Walt already had in his catalog and immediately start up a show. But they had wanted it to be different than the Disneyland show that everybody was familiar with. So they got rid of the standardized lands, the rotating lands. So they're no longer going to be Fantasyland themed episode or Frontierland themed, yada, yada, yada. Instead, it was about emphasizing academia, a lot more learning. They still brought people into the parks to show them different shows. There's one that I watched that had to do with the Golden Horseshoe, which was a musical review that was in Disneyland. Yeah. And wholly racist, but anyways, moving on.
I got a series of snaps. It was hilarious.
I mean, it was a different time, but it was definitely a different time. But the very first episode that they did for the NBC company was called An Adventure in Color / Math Magic Land. So they had two different themes for the episode. And this was also a time where they introduced a new animated character. And the character is Professor Ludwig von Drake. Made specifically for color and to introduce color programming / sell RCA TVs.
Yeah, it's a hard sell too.
Yeah.
Like,
you watched the first...
Yeah, the little bit where he's doing the song, and it really feels like he should have worked at like a state fair grandstand, like trying to hawk some sort of seen on TV product, because it was compelling too, because they were showing this grandiose stuff, and he'd be like, well, it'd be good if you saw it in color. I'm like, wow, that's rough when your own content is telling you that you're not looking at it right.
And then they did a song where it was basically all just the colors, like red, yellow, green, purple, orange, blue, three, blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, and for you non-color people, black, gray, black, white, gray, black, gray, white, black. Okay, now, are you satisfied? Is that enough? Okay, moving on to the song that I want to do.
It was very sassy. It's just interesting because there's kind of that battle between the idea of there being like content being good regardless of how you consume it versus like content that you need to have that technology to make it work. And I always feel like Walt was kind of into always having the latest and greatest in terms of like viewing experience and, creating experience. It seems like that was always, it definitely like influences him to this day, but I've always found that really funny that was like a thing. It's just like he was all on board with like shaming you into getting a color TV.
I mean, even before we got to Ludwig von Drake, they had a little intro with Walt, and Walt did a whole like, let me show you the paint department of the ink and paint area, and he was going through different pigment colors, and then these 3 workers that work in the paint department come by, and they're still in grayscale. And he's like, hold on, let me have some Disney magic. Bibbidi, bobbidi, blue. And then they turn into primary colors. And then he's like, wait, that wasn't right. Hold on. What did it say? I had it right here. And then he's like, let's try these magic words. NBC, color TV. And boop, they all of a sudden work. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not, calling out that you're with a new...
They should have done that with... when they went to HD, then like people walked out and they're just like super pixely.
It's so subtle. It's so subtle.
Yeah.
But the next thing that, we're talking about when we're discussing Ludwig von Drake is that he also advanced animation more. This was the first time where they actually offered a improv style to Disney animation. So the voice of Professor Ludwig von Drake was Paul Frees, who you might know as the ghost host.
Yes.
As well as... It's okay, we're all kind of weird today. We're stumbling over words.
There we go.
But they basically just threw questions at him, and he was answering things, and that's how they would draw it. And he was very prevalent. He was basically the host for the show during its long run, and it ran through... 1969.
Okay.
And so he was a reoccurring regular character to help
kind of how they
direct.
handled the genie for
Robin
Aladdin.
Williams.
Yeah, they just like
Yep.
threw stuff over Robin Williams and just let him go.
Yep. And so the interaction that you see with Drake on screen is a lot of, okay, so here's a guideline, but go explore it.
Yeah.
And they were able to do animation off of that. So that brought animation from being so rigid and scripted
Yeah.
into a more natural and fluid concept.
Right. Okay.
In fact, Von Drake even recorded Disneyland's first comedy album.
Sure.
Didn't realize
Why
that
not?
there was a comedy album, but I guess it probably has to do with his music. One of the songs that I skipped for you, he was trying to say he's also known as Elvis Von Drake, and he tried to sing, Elvis's blues song, but with, colors.
Sure.
So
Oh,
green with
God.
envy because I'm
Right.
blue and all this.
Right. Oh, man. I bet Paul Frees had fun, though.
Oh yeah,
That's
and you could even
hilarious.
You could even hear it in his
Yes,
voice that he
yes.
was just giddy and bouncing
Yes.
around. And actually, 7 of the 9 old men worked to create
Wow.
Ludwig von Drake. So it's not new animation. These are the
Yeah.
tried and true.
Yeah, they applied
Guys of Disney.
They applied the core full force of Disney animation power to like do this for TV, which is cool that they threw it all in. Walt's like, this is part of the future of entertainment. Let's not
Walt's
skimp
never,
on it.
Yeah, Walt's never skimped on anything.
Yeah.
If he's had a concept that he thought was worth it,
Yeah.
he had no money, no budget, no concept, was too small. Just go
Right.
ahead and
Right.
give it your best and
Blue
do
sky.
amazing work.
Yep.
And there, even in the first episode, I showed you this little clip. Drake, intentionally threw shade on the NBC Peacock, which, was created for showing off the color spectrum.
Yes.
But what did they say? They said that it dyes its feathers or something like that.
He dyes his feathers. And just like winks at the camera. It was just like, what is happening? He just threw shade at the NBC Peacock. Why not?
On the very first episode of working with a new network.
Yeah.
Sure, that's how we work, right?
Yeah.
And then through The Wonderful World of Color, the Sherman Brothers that we all know and love, are
yes.
very familiar with their music,
Yes.
were able to create new songs as well, including the theme song, Color, ! Color, !
Exclamation point.
But
Oh!
it's the one who gets stuck in my head all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And they even created a nighttime water show for Disney's California Adventure
Yes.
based
On
off
The Wonderful
of
World of Color.
The Wonderful World of Color.
Yeah.
I will say, though, it was so difficult to find research in regards to The Wonderful World of Color because it transferred over to The Wonderful World of Disney and shared a lot of the same content
Sure.
a little while later.
Right.
And there's a lot more, viewability. And
Yeah.
people remember Wonderful World of Disney for longer. I think that one lasted 20-something years.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That title. But Wonderful World of Color, they also, were taking advantage of the new technology to advertise it.
Right.
But, after 1969, it's been 9 years of having color. They don't have to keep talking about, hey,
Right,
it's the wonderful
right.
world of
Color.
color.
Yeah.
It's the wonderful world of sliced bread.
Right,
It's
Everyone, it's the same thing.
It's the wonderful world of automobiles.
Right.
I mean, we're used to it by now.
Right,
So
right.
Wonderful World of Disney makes sense. But it was hard because I love the color concept and I love the academia behind it and how they really focused on learning through television.
advertisements. No, I'm sorry.
They did a little bit of learning through television
Yeah.
when it came to the World War II propaganda stuff, which we
Yeah.
have an episode on.
Yes.
But they didn't have, oh gods, I don't even,
I
you're card
I'll
cornering
find- I'll
someplace.
find
I
it.
don't even
I'll
know.
figure it out.
But this was the first time that they were actually able to take that and really run with it. It wasn't focused on Disneyland. It was, okay, the second half of that first show was
Right.
Math Magic Land, which talked about math and how math influences everything.
Right.
And it just became the shows that we are all familiar with as far as learning from Disney. So you can pull up a clip from any of these shows and you'll be like, yeah, I remember that. I remember Donald trying to play billiards and
Right.
or, you know, the Red Queen from the chessboard yelling and
Yeah.
it's, I mean,
Yeah.
those are familiar images
Yes.
that
Yes.
we grew up with, but we didn't know where they came from. And that's
Yeah.
just the
Very
you know,
ubiquitous. Yeah.
the show that they originated from.
Yeah.
This show also won a Golden Globe as well as 2 Emmys. One was for art directing and scenic design in 1963.
Sure.
And then the other one, Emmy, was for field documentary programs in 1963 as well.
They're doing some field work.
Because they were still in color, and
Right.
a lot of people were not doing, you know, field documentaries, having to take cameras out into
the field and do color. Well, and
they didn't have cameras a lot that they were willing to bring out into the wild that
Right.
were
Well,
so expensive for color technology.
Well, at the time, they would have been doing it with film. If they were out doing color, you said that was in the 60s?
63.
63, yeah. It would have been like a color 16 or 35 millimeter film camera, because I think actual like camcorder technology where you could record to tape. Sorry, this is like a dumb, weird side thing. the original, like, so like the idea of like a cassette, like a VCR, VHS, like the magnetic tape recording like a video signal. The problem is the video signals are so like fast, so much data in one of those like analog video signals that like you couldn't just record it like a linear tape that you would expect, like, you know, like a cassette or audio tape. So like at the time when they had them back in the original Ampeg like companies, the company that made the original like cassette like main tape recorder for magnetic tape for video, it had to run at like 30,000 RPM or something. Like it had to like the tape had to literally like fly past the read head. Like it was crazy. Like so they
Don't
it was
decapitate yourself.
It cost millions of dollars in the 50s. Like it was insanity. And so they had to they basically like that technology didn't like get miniaturized until the 80s. So if they were shooting color anywhere outside of like a studio setting at that point in time, it would have had to have been on film because nothing else could have actually captured color like out there. It's very interesting. Anyway,
so they won a Golden Globe and they won 2 Emmys, and it then transferred over to The Wonderful World of Disney, as we're familiar with, grew up with. Then they started their, you know, other things that we'll talk about, because I think we have another one of these lined up in another month or so or two of the advancement
give ourselves
of this.
away.
Yeah, because I've done that research already.
Yeah.
Okay. But I love The Wonderful World of Color. I love the advancement in technology as far as bringing color to television. I can't even fathom a life of black and white TV because you're surrounded by color in your everyday life, and if there was one thing that Walt wanted to focus on was realism within animation and bringing the fantastical to the physical.
Yeah.
And this is what allowed him to do that. And it was just another logical step for him. He was the first one to bring any color film through flowers and trees to a theater.
Yeah.
And this is just the first time that color programming had existed. And
so he's like, I like color, I like technology. You're doing the new technology, let's do this. Like,
and if I can spite ABC at the time, all the better.
And ironically now, it's like they just like own ABC. Casually owns ABC now. See how that went for everyone. But yeah.
So that's been World of Color.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
World of Color. Wonderful World of Color. Disney's World. Anyway,
the world is a carousel of color. And on that note, that not matching, horribly clashing note between you and I.
Yeah, I know. Well, I didn't know where we were going with it, and it just went all the heck from there.
This has been WD Carousel of Podcast. My name's Crystal.
And I'm Ian.
And we hope you have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Bye, everybody.